You know how sometimes you have a dish out and you really like it and you want to try and recreate it at home. Then combine that with the fact that that dish may have had meat in it and you're eating vegetarian, so you decide that maybe that's not the right dish for you to have, but you still love the textures and flavors of that dish, so you try and recreate it in a vegetarian version. Well, I've come up with one that's a sort of my own take on a Cuban sandwich. Now, a Cuban sandwich is something, when you live in South Florida, you probably have many opportunities to have a Cuban sandwich, and they're really good. They're from, they're sort of imported from Cuba, though it's got a sort of its own style on it. It's not exactly like you might get in Cuba. Now in Tampa, they have a slight variation on it, but it's essentially the same sandwich. The sandwich consists of Cuban bread, sliced ham, sliced pork, Swiss cheese, pickles, and mustard. And I know that sounds like a weird combination. If you've never tried it, you probably are looking at me like, what the heck is he talking about? But the flavor combination is really something to behold. It's that texture of the bread because it's a pressed bread when they're done with it, so it's got a little crunch to it. The mustard gives it a little tang, and then the pickles just give it something really, really amazing. Now the thing is, some variations I've seen on it, some people put a little mayonnaise. If you're in the Tampa version, they put a little salami on it. I don't know which one is right, don't really care either. The point is, it's the flavor combinations I like, and I wanted to try and recreate that. So I created my own version of it, and instead of using pork and ham, I just used the vegetarian deli meat. So it's really a seitan product. It's a wheat product, and the one I get is from Trader Joe's, and it's actually got a little smokiness to it and a little tofu in it, so it's a little softer. And I think it's the perfect addition to this particular dish that makes it just right. So that with Swiss cheese, pickles, a couple of different kinds of mustard, and a better bread than Cuban bread. Now, nothing wrong with Cuban bread, of course, but Cuban bread often is made with lard. So Cuban bread is off the menu as far as being a vegetarian. So I wind up getting some ciabatta, which is also good and kind of substitutes in there. So it's my own take on a Cuban sandwich that's a vegetarian style. So let's make it and give it a try. It's really good. I was surprised at how good this came out. For this recipe, I'm going to start off with the ciabatta. I think it provides the right texture and flavor and gives all the profiles of a Cuban bread without being Cuban bread. And you can pick a good style that you like. There's a lot of options out there. You can pick something you really enjoy. Now, one of the important things about Cuban sandwiches is the mustard. You need to put mustard on the bread. So I like to put mustard on both sides. I use like a Dijon on one side, and then I'll use like a honey mustard that's more of a deli mustard style on the other. And that gives me a lot of flavor, and it helps make the bread kind of nice and moist too. Now, traditionally with a Cuban sandwich, you'd put a lot of butter on it when you put it into a Cuban press or a panini press. So I like to actually have instead of doing the butter, I like to put a lot of the different mustards in here to just give it that same sort of thing. So here's where it starts with the mustard, and I think that's really important to get just the right mustard on there. Now, Cuban sandwich also has pickles. This is about a depth of flavor because you get the tartness from the pickles. It's a dill pickle you use. You get sort of the tanginess from the mustard, and those two combinations starting together really give you something nice. So I'll put those on there, and then what I like to do is I actually like to use this tofurkey. It's a vegetarian deli slice. It's a vegan deli slice that I picked up at Trader Joe's. It's got a hickory smoke flavor to it that's kind of nice. It's not perfect. It doesn't substitute for everything, but I think instead of the ham, this is a nice flavor because it gives that sort of smokiness that you want. So I just like to slice them up and put them on the sandwich, and I just put a couple pieces on here to give it a little bit. Now, in a traditional Cuban sandwich, you would actually put both sliced ham and pulled pork. I don't have anything to represent the pulled pork today. On another day, I might actually take some mushrooms that I've got and use the mushrooms in there. But since I don't have any, I'll just go ahead and just do these deli slices. And I'll put a few slices on there to get them together and make something really nice. So this gives me my base. So I've got mustard, pickles, and my deli slices on there. Now, there's really only one other ingredient that's required, and that's Swiss cheese. And so I've cut up some Swiss cheese that I picked up, and I'm going to go ahead and just lay it across. I like it to be kind of flat when I work with it, but I'll just go ahead and kind of lay it across and just make a sort of a cheesy crust on it here, basically. So when I put the top piece of bread on it, it'll melt into the bread. And that's it. That's the sandwich in its base. Now, the important thing is what you have to do is you have to actually cook this sandwich. Now, if you have a panini press, then you want to put it in that. I don't have a panini press, and it just takes up too much counter space for the number of times that I use it. So instead, I actually use my oven to help me out here. So what I do is I take my sandwich that I want to press, and I wrap it in foil. And in wrapping it in foil, that sets it up so that I can put it in my oven and weight it down with something. And the thing that I weight it down with is my cast iron skillet. So I actually just wrap it in the foil, put it on a pan, and then take my cast iron skillet and put my skillet on top of it to provide some pressure. And that pressure will actually kind of press it down. So I do it for a couple of minutes on one side, cook it, and then turn it over and put the skillet on the other side, so it gets to be a nice flat sort of texture to it, and it actually cooks it through pretty well. So it's about 5 or 6 minutes on a side to get it to where I want it, and it crisps it up nicely, makes it nice and flat, does exactly what I want it to do. So I've cooked one side. I'm just going to flip the sandwich over, just put my cast iron skillet back on top of it, and then just close it up and let it cook for another 5 minutes. And that's it. That's all I do. And as it counts down here, you can see how this is going to come out. I come out with this really nice sandwich that's got a pressedness to it, and it's got all the right flavor combinations that really work well for a Cuban sandwich. It's important to get all of these flavors together. I'm a big flavor believer. You need to come up with things that really, please your palate in some way. And I think this really does that. So here's my sandwich. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the counter here, and I'll open it up. It is a little hot when it comes out of the oven, but I'll go ahead and open it up and slice it, and you can see what it looks like. Now, slicing it, sometimes it's a little messy, sometimes it works perfectly, sometimes it's a little tricky. It's one of those things where as long as it tastes good, I'm okay with it being a little messy. That's fine with me. So I'm just going to slice through it. You'll see how the bread kind of breaks apart as I slice it. That happens. And I'm not worried about that so much. It still tastes darn good. Sometimes I cut it and it comes out perfect, and sometimes it doesn't. This time it didn't, but that's okay. I'll go ahead and I'll just make the sandwich, and I'll have something really nice that I'll enjoy eating. I'll just take it off the foil here, and you can see what I've got. It's this really terrific Cuban-like sandwich that I've got. And it's got all the right flavors, all the right textures, and everything feels right about it. Even if it's not an exact match, it's a really good flavor profile that really makes it nice. So here's what it looks like when it comes out, and it all kind of comes together. I'm actually going to pick it up and take a bite because it's so good. You can see what it looks like, and oh yeah, that's the stuff right there. And that's my Cuban sandwich.